Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all doing really, really well. I am just in the middle of traveling everywhere. I think I mentioned in another episode I've been kind of going all over everywhere at the moment. And I wanted to kind of jump in and say hi to you all, but also share some stuff about personal branding, because there's so much nonsense out there right now, so much nonsense. And I've met so many business owners who have basically got themselves tied up in knots trying to get their head around this personal branding shtick and really tying themselves in knots. So let's talk about it today. Talk about why it's important, kind of give you some ways to think about it so you can get your head around it. You know, there's nothing worse than going into a presentation and somebody explains personal branding, but they explain it with other terms that still don't make sense. Or the definition of it becomes so complicated or so intangible, you can't do anything with it. And it's just like, I see this with personal branding, and people making all sorts of diagrams and God knows what. And then I see the other extremes of people talking about it like it's celebrity status and pretending to be a celebrity and projecting a lifestyle and all this nonsense. And I've had people in my workshops. I don't know how many workshops I do, a lot. I must travel, 100 days a year, something like that. So I travel about 100 days a year. So a third of my year is traveling around the world and speaking to people about personal branding, social media, marketing, LinkedIn, social selling, sales, marketing, all that stuff. And I was in a workshop very recently, and there was somebody in the workshop and they had 3 times the followers that I get, 3 times the engagement. And you know the kind of posts where you put something out there and it just goes absolutely ballistic and you think that's awesome. And you're like, that was great. I wish I could do that again. This person is somebody who gets that every single time they post. So it's like slightly hate them at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I'm joking, but you get my point. They're getting such great numbers, but they have to have a job. They've got a job. And they came to my workshop basically because they've built this audience and can't make money from it. So they have to work as well. So their influence is not making them any money. Their personal brand is not making them any money. And there's a lot of people like this. And the problem is, we're, as humans, wired to basically see numbers and assume success. So if we see lots of people following, lots of people engaging, we assume success. And let's be honest, you look at some of the content that's performing, and it's not exactly world-changing. I mean, there's a craze at the moment of basically on LinkedIn just dishing out platitudes and just appealing to people based on platitudes. So there's no new thoughts. There's no new inspiration. It's basically regurgitating stuff. It's formulaic. And there's nothing wrong with having a formula to do things, but it's just like you're just playing a game. And at the end of it, you've got to get something out of this. So there's a lot of nonsense around about personal branding. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of academic crap, for want of a word. And I thought I'd spend the time kind of just unpacking it in a way that you can take it away and do something with it. Because I think this personal branding piece is just being overcomplicated. So let's just start with the basics. What is personal branding? Well, personal branding is not new, right? It's not some new fandangled thing. It's just a digital version of something people have had for a long time. It is simply the ability to present yourself and the fullness of who you are in a nice, neat package. That's really what it is. So let me give you a simpler way of thinking about this. So think about movies, right? So think about movies. I love movies, love watching movies. But you think about movies. So let's think of a famous, very famous, well-known movie character in a movie. So let's think about Indiana Jones, right? So Indiana Jones, archaeologist, professor, lecturer, action hero who goes and saves precious artifacts, but also saves the world at the same time. He's a rebel. He's not your classic archaeologist. You know a lot about him. His dad was Henry Jones, and he had a wife. I can't remember her name now. And then there was the Indiana Jones Jr. He hates snakes. You know, all this stuff. Now, why am I relating personal branding to this? So personal branding is simply the characterization of you so that people can understand who you are and what you're about. So your expertise, your topic, that's important. Some of your stories and adventures and things that have happened to you, that's important. Your backstory, where you've come from, your inspiration, your challenges, that's part of your story. And so what makes a movie, a character in a movie appeal to us is the depth of their character, the depth of the person. I remember watching a film during the pandemic called Tenet. And I really didn't like the film. I thought there was too much, it was too clever for its own good. But one of the biggest things was I couldn't connect with the character. I couldn't connect with the guy the protagonist, I think his name was. I didn't connect with why this all mattered. I didn't connect with him as a person. It was off. I just think the writing wasn't very good. But there are some really good characters that you really, really connect with and really kind of gel with. And it's because of the depth of them. You know what they do, you know what they're about, but also it's the way they do it, their personality, their traits, their backstory that kind of makes this character appealing. And your personal brand is your expertise, your subject matter knowledge, all of that stuff, but wrapped up with your personality, your beliefs, your values, who you are, so that you present a character of yourself, you, to the world. Now, your personal brand can't be 100% you. Let's just deal with that now. This whole, just be authentic you, it's just nonsense, right? It can't be the whole you because that is game face you to a degree. That behind the scenes, you will have worries, fears, concerns that you won't project into your personal brand, right? But it's probably 80, 90% of you, right? Because we all have bits and pieces that we don't like sharing about ourselves. So don't think you just have to just blurt everything out about your life on social media or LinkedIn. That's not what it's about. But it's about presenting who you are, both as a person, your personality, your dreams, your hopes, your subject matter, wrapping it all up so that people can connect with it. People buy from people. People buy into people before they buy from people. And right now, 2024, as I'm recording this, we have a crisis of trust. And we are going into a period of time where trust is going to be at an all-time low. You can fake reviews right now. You can fake followers right now. You can fake success right now. You can fake everything, right? Everything's fakeable, right? Everything is fakeable. And I'm not advocating you go and fake everything. What I'm trying to say is, if you can get 90% of you wrapped up into a personal brand and get it out there and be consistently building that brand out there, you are building trust, because time builds trust. Trust is built over time. And so building your personal brand is about so people see you, get to know you over time, so that trust is established. So when somebody goes, do you know what? I need to solve that problem. Do I invest the £5,000 with Dean, or do I invest it with somebody else who I don't really know? Better the devil you know. You buy into the people you trust. And trust is at an all-time low. It really is. There's scams everywhere. Everything's going on. We don't know whether the media is telling us the truth. We don't know if our politicians are telling us the truth. In fact, one politician calls the other politician a liar, and the other politician calls the other one a liar. So, we're in an era where nobody knows what really is true in many cases. So our personal brand is our chance to put our stall out and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is my expertise. And I'm out there consistently building that trust, building that visibility, so I am known, but so people can connect with us. Because it's not just about, slapping our faces on everything and, telling everybody all our personal tragedies. It's about people connecting with our personality and who we are and the way we see the world, the way we think about things, so that they can go, yeah, I get you. I see it your way. And you can build an audience around people who see things your way, who like the way you do things, who love hearing from your backstory, that connection. And that's what personal branding is. It's trust and connection. It's about being remembered for the right things. It's about being a compelling character, being a compelling version of you so that people can gel with it and go, I get that person. And you can stand out from that. One of the great things we often our biggest strength is often perceived as our biggest weakness. Your biggest strength is probably you're perceiving as your biggest weakness. Your personality makes you unique. So when you transplant your personality onto your subject matter area, it makes a compelling differentiator. Now, as human beings, we love to follow. We don't like to stand out in front. Nobody wants to be the person who stands up in front. Nobody wants to take the risk first. And so when we come to that putting ourselves out there piece, we often get afraid to, what if we put ourselves out there and we're too out there? What if we put ourselves out there and we get rejected? And so what happens is we temper who we are. We dilute ourselves. We temper things. And so we blend in. We become like everybody else. And so the very thing that makes us different and stand out, our personality, the way we see the world, our views, our subject matter, all of that melting pot of who we are and what we're about, that melting pot, you shove all the ingredients in and blend it in. All of that makes it different. We've seen lots of movie characters who are action heroes, from Tom Cruise and Liam Neeson and Samuel L. Jackson and Denzel Washington. I love him in the Equalizer series, films. You see all of those. They're all action heroes. But Indiana Jones is a completely different character than Tom Cruise. Completely different context, but he's still an action hero. He still saves the day. And that's the differentiator in a personal brand. But what happens is, when we put it all into that melting pot, we worry about rejection, and all those kind of things. We worry about all of that stuff. And guess what happens? We temper it, we blend in. So we're afraid to be different, but our difference is what will get us the attention and all of the success that comes from building a personal brand. So we have this tension in ourselves that holds us back, but we've got to decide, are we Indiana Jones? Are we Denzel Washington? Who are we? Who are we? Who's our character? Who are we really? Because that's the true self we want to put out there. And yes, it has to be you. You can't just, reinvent yourself as something different. But it is the melting pot of our personality, our backstory, our perspectives on the world, what we believe, what we want people to know about us, and what our expertise is. It's a melting pot of things. And that we mix that up and we put it out there in a consistent way. We put the ingredients in and put it out there so that people don't just get information from us. They get information with our take, with our style, with our quirks. And that's what makes it different. So think about your personal brand like Harrison Ford. You're creating a character. It is you. It's fully you. You're authentic. Obviously, you're not going to blurt out every last thing about your life and all that kind of drama stuff, but it is you. So hopefully that explains a personal brand. It's the character of who you are. And ultimately, it's how you want to be remembered. So do you want to be remembered as an action hero who's brilliant at archaeology, action hero archaeology, and a whip and a hat? Think about it like that. Archaeology, action hero, whip and a hat. Right? Think about that. Right? Now, when you go to social media, you can't obviously put the full nuance into every post. You can't be Indiana Jones in every post because there's only so much you can do in one post, but the full picture of all of your social media presence, all your online presence, everything that you do builds the picture that you are a cool action hero that's also an archaeologist and has a whip and a hat. And there's a full nuance that builds up, that picture builds up the more people connect and engage with you. That's a personal brand. That's a personal brand. That's what you're building. So when you're starting out building that personal brand, you've got to be selective about what you share so that people build up the picture. Because if you try and do too much at once, it becomes difficult. And what you find is your personal brand will evolve. You might be quite cautious with it at first, and then you move a little bit further, then you move a little bit further, then you move a little bit further. But the full dimension of that personal brand gets developed as you do it. So, we didn't know about Indiana Jones's father in one of the films. It came later. We didn't know about his fear of snakes in some films. It came later. So you learn about the brand. The brand evolves and gets deeper and has more nuance to it as people spend time around it. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that lasting memory of adventures, whip hat, archaeologist, action hero, good guy. Yeah, that kind of vibe. That's what we're trying to do with our personal brand. So just think about it like that. So if all you're doing is putting selfies out, but you're not getting the character, you're not getting the sense of who you are, the personality, you're just blending in. So you're not establishing anything. So hopefully that explains it. And now what I want to do is just flip and talk about actors for a minute, because this will give you another perspective on personal brand. So we've talked about movie characters. Let's think about it from an actor's point of view. And I want to pick up on a couple of actors. So I want to pick up on number one, Liam Neeson. Now, this is a great example for how you monetize and make money from a personal brand. So if you look at Liam Neeson, he's played a number of roles over the years, but his career really took off when he did Taken. So he did that action film, the kidnapping and everything. He did that film. It was a massive success. He got a lot of traction from it. And then he doubled down on it. Now, prior to that point, Liam Neeson had done lots of different roles, but that role defined him. And this is something very, very important for everybody listening, particularly if you're trying to build your business online. So it's very difficult because attention spans are so short, because we have to land messages in seconds, not minutes, because people don't remember things as well as we used to because we're doing it all on our screens. It's even more important that you make it easy for people to remember what you do. And that means focusing. It means being not a niche in the sense of I help people over 45, but it does help you. You need to be focused around, if there's one problem I could solve for people, what would that one problem be? Because Liam Neeson, once he had that success with Taken, he tacked into playing that role more or less in a million different other movies. So this is where now Liam Neeson is typecast. So if I did a survey of 100 people and said, what's the most famous movie Liam Neeson's done? Oh, Liam Neeson, name a Liam Neeson movie. They would probably name Taken. Yeah. So what happens is Liam Neeson becomes synonymous with his genre and the type of role he plays. So in your scenario, your personal brand, if you want to make money from it, you need to be synonymous with the type of problem that you solve. So the more complicated you make it, so I solve this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, the harder it will be be remembered for a problem. But because Liam Neeson did the film Taken, the kidnapping film, it was a massive success. And he basically went on to do 3 more kidnapping films. And most of his films have that vibe of he has to take vengeance for somebody else. He plays that role now pretty much in most of his films. And your job is to basically deliberately typecast yourself, Liam Neeson's typecast yourself so when people think about that problem, they think about you. When people worry about that problem and want to have a solution, they think about you. Now, in the acting world, some might say, some actors, here's what happens. Actors, as they get started, they'll play lots of roles to try and get themselves out there. And then when they land a role where they do well, they basically go all in on that genre. They ride off the back of their last success to get the next one and the next one and the next one. And then if you do very, very well in a genre, like Liam Neeson, like Jim Carrey, you get typecast. And you get typecast into a specific role. In other words, you end up playing that kind of role for a lot of your career. Now, in the acting world, the typecasting is often seen as a negative. Or it can be seen as a negative because actors like to do lots of different things. They want to be in romance movies. They want to do a bit of comedy. They want to do a bit of this. They want to do a bit of that. You get it. Business world's exactly the same. You know, I've built a name for myself off LinkedIn and training people on LinkedIn, but I could talk about email marketing. I could talk about, sales. I could talk about strategy. I could talk about content. I could talk about a million different things that I've got experience in and I could help other people with. I could talk about a million different things. And I want to talk about a million different things. One of the biggest tensions I have in my business is I don't just want to be known as LinkedIn because there's much more to me than that. You're the same. Everybody listening to me, exactly the same. You are more than just one problem. You're more than just one thing. But the issue is to get that breakthrough, to cut through that noise, you actually have to typecast yourself. You have to really say, I'm going to own that role. I'm going to own that problem. I'm going to be synonymous with people. For people who want that to solve that problem, I'm going to be synonymous. Because that's the fastest and easiest way to cut through and to get that breakthrough role. So for you thinking about this, it's like, okay, I could solve problem A, problem B, problem C, problem D, 20, problem A to Z. You could solve 26 problems for people. You go pick one. and you go, right, I'm going to label myself, I'm going to brand myself that the go-to person to solve that problem. And you do that and you get the breakthrough. Guess what? You can do exactly what those actors do. So you'll notice if an actor's been typecast and they've made a lot of money, they've had a lot of success in certain roles, they will struggle at a certain point in their career to get the big roles in the other ones, like rom-coms and what have you. But they can be far more creative and get into other films. So you see this now with Liam Neeson, you see it with Jim Carrey, you see it with some others. They're playing roles where they enjoy it more. They're doing it for the fun of it rather than, for the big payoffs. They'll play a comedy role. They'll do a cameo, and they're doing that to play to their skill set. But they made most of their money in one of them. And we're afraid to do that because we don't, again, it's that kind of like yin and yang of this. We're afraid to be typecast, but the solution to get breakthrough and make a lot of money is to be typecast. And once you've got that success in one particular area, you can pivot off from it. But people try and do it too early. They try and do it too soon. And they haven't established themselves. They haven't built that reputation, that brand awareness, that they are the go-to person for that. And they're jumping ship everywhere. So let me give you an example. If you want somebody to remember your name, they might have to see your name or interact with you 7 times to remember it. 7 times. If you think about a radio jingle, so those little annoying tunes that you get on adverts on the radio, how many times do you have to listen to one of those to know all the words? It's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. So if it takes us a long time to listen, not lots and lots of listens to a radio jingle to remember the jingle, it might be 20, 30, I don't know how many times it is, but it's a lot. That means for us to establish our reputation as broadly and as widely as possible as being the go-to person to solve that problem, to be typecast as that's the guy or gal that solves that problem. To do that, you have to constantly be saying it. It's like election campaign mode all the time. Why? Because there's people in your world who've never met you. This is the annoying thing about online and the good thing about online. You'll have people who discover you for the first time today. You'll have people who've seen you for the 44th time today. You'll have people who've seen you for the second time today. And so all the time you have brand new people discovering you. And if you chop and change what you do, chop and change your messaging on an ongoing basis, it is impossible for you to typecast yourself. It's impossible. It's impossible to build a personal brand because you pivot from this to that to the other, from this problem to that problem, from this solution to this solution, from this service to this service. How the hell can anybody know what you do? So personal branding, think about Indiana Jones. The character. Yeah. Then think about it from the other aspect, the actor. And the actor is known for particular roles, for fulfilling particular roles, very particular characters and genres. So you've got the fullness of who you are as a person in the character. And then you've got the other side to it, which is the actor aspect, which is like, what movies did they typically do because that's their shtick? And then those two things give you a clear indication of this is what I've got to do. And then you've got to put that out everywhere and live it on an ongoing basis like a campaign mode all the time. Imagine you're running for election for the next 5 years. You've got a campaign slogan. You've got a set of policies. You've got clear visual identity. You've got your talking points and you just go rinse, repeat, spin it a different way, rinse, repeat, spin it a different way, rinse, repeat. And that's how you build that brand. And now I want to finish with just one more point. And I think I've took a bit longer to explain this than I thought I would. Your personal brand that you're building, it's not just about it's not going to happen tomorrow. Right? And actually, one of the crazy things is, if you do it, you probably won't notice when it's really caught fire, because it's a little bit like anything in marketing is a little bit like putting, the story of putting the frog in boiling water. If you put the frog in boiling water, it'll jump out. But if you put the frog in cold water and boil the water slowly, it will basically stay in the water. And I'm using that example because this is how you have to think about it. When you're posting and doing all that stuff to build that personal brand, you're not going to get transformation overnight. Personal branding is a compounding benefit. So day one, you might make one tiny inroad and very little impact. Day two, you might make a little bit more impact. Day three, but it's compounding. By that, I mean, it does not just improve on a nice linear gradual increase. It might bounce along the bottom. It might feel like you're not getting any progress for a few months, and then it'll tip up, and it'll tip up, and it'll tip up, and it'll tip up, and it'll tip up. But you may find that it feels like it's going nowhere for a while. You may find that you have some success and then it feels flat again. That's perfectly normal. That's how this thing plays out. But you've got to factor in that at some point this pivots up and up and up and grows. But then the other side to this is, I'd encourage you to document what's going on in your world as you're building this personal brand. And the reason why I say this is because we quickly become accustomed to, we make new stuff normal very quickly. So in other words, let's say for an example, I'll just use a simple example. Let's say currently your average posts, say on LinkedIn, get 500 views. Let's say you get 500 views on average on every post, right? So you're like 500 views. You build your personal brand over the next 3 months, and maybe you're at 500, 600, 700 views, and your average is now 700 views. Emotionally and mentally, we will get used to the 700 views and forget how far or where we used to be. And then you might get to like 1,000 views or 1,500 or 2,000 views, and then you get to that 2,000 views the first time, and you're like, yes, this is awesome, 2,000 views. Then you do it a second day, yes, yes, yes. All right. And let's say for the next 30 days, you do 2,000 views, and then you drop down to say 1,700. Oh no, what's happened? You're on suicide watch because your views have gone down. Yet they are still higher than where you started. So we get used to a new normal very quickly. And I want to tell you about this because yes, the effects of building a personal brand compound. But if you're not really tracking what you're doing, you'll find that you won't see all the success you're having, and you could leave yourself disappointed. You could have doubled your reach and doubled all of that stuff, but because of our vulnerability to basically adapt to the new normal, we emotionally feel like we're not making progress. So you could have, it sounds silly, but I see it all the time. I see people who've made so many inroads, so much progress, but they don't see it because they've adapted and got used to it along the way. So what 6 months ago would have been amazing is now everyday mundane. So personal branding, I hope that's helped clear it up. I'm not an advocate for trying to just get famous for being famous. I'm an advocate for monetizing attention through a personal brand, which is different. So a lot of the things you see at the moment is just, I want to be famous. And what I believe in is that you should have a lot of attention and be able to monetize it because that's what a personal brand really is about. So thank you for listening to me. Please do check out all the new changes. And if you get something from this podcast, if you love what I'm talking about, drop a comment, download, subscribe. I appreciate you all joining me on this journey, but I know that there's many people who'll get so much out of this episode. So from my hotel room, somewhere on my travels, have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll be back for another episode very, very soon.